Hello, I'm Dr. Vanita Rattan, and this channel is dedicated to skincare for skin of color. As you know, I'm a doctor, but I'm also a cosmetic formulator specifically for skin of color. So today's video, actually, I feel like I should have done a long time ago, and I don't know why I'm only doing it now, but it's the reason I actually got into this. Majority of treatments that were designed for hyperpigmentation were not designed for skin of color. The reason being that the first question that we must ask when we formulate for skin of color is, how do I minimize irritation? That's the first question. The second question is, how do I get the results that I desire? Unfortunately, with the classic treatments for hyperpigmentation, including high-strength glycolic acid, TCA peels, laser, or hydroquinone, the order of questions being asked was, one, how do I get the result that I want? And very little thought to, how do I minimize any form of inflammation and prevent PIH taking place? So today I really want to go through these treatments and explain what do you do if you have burnt with these treatments. I conducted a number of polls on my Instagram to find out the percentage of you that had burnt with one of these treatments. In order to treat your pigmentation, actually end up with worse pigmentation, and I think that the numbers were really quite scary, and it prompted me to make this video for you to tell you what to do in the immediate event, but also how to manage the situation after. If that sounds good to you, please give me a thumbs up. Let's dive right in. Now, the classic question to ask at this point is, Dr. V, I don't understand how these treatments were made not designed for skin of color. How was that possible when that really is the primary concern for our skin of color family? And I tell you what it is, you really need to look at the history of what has happened and where these treatments were discovered or formulated. So this all took place in the West. So the history of hyperpigmentation treatments, the classic ones that we use around the world, were developed in the West, and the cohort of the population that initial trials were done on were Caucasian. And so, of course, the side effects for Caucasians are very different to the side effects seen for skin of color. Our skin responds completely differently. Our melanocytes are large. They are angry. They are easily triggered. You know, I always say one mosquito bite can take down our skin. You can have a mosquito bite 20 years ago and still see the pigmentation today. That would never, ever happen in Caucasian skin. So then how is it that we've ended up with the same treatment? The reason is really momentum. So once the clinical studies were done on these treatments, majority of the time for Caucasian skin, they then got rolled out around the world. It just ended up happening that, you know, majority of us are using these treatments to treat hyperpigmentation. This is the reason 12 years ago, I decided to go into the laboratory and try and figure out, can I create a professional grade treatment for pigmentation for skin of color without causing any burns? This was the reason. It's because we sort of gone with momentum and just used what was already available and not really stopped to ask the question, is this, if I was to start from scratch, is this the treatment that I would choose for skin of color? And I think majority of the time, most of us would have said no. It's just that momentum meant that we just carried on using what was available. Clinical studies were behind it. And so that's sort of what's happened. Unfortunately, the repercussions have been that a lot of us have burnt with these treatments and have been left with hyperpigmentation. Now, I'm just going to read you some of the data that we collected from our Instagram at the Hyperpigmentation Clinic. I do highly recommend that you follow me on Instagram, just because I do a lot of polls in order to collate information that we really should already know about skin of color. And I make the information public so that other cosmetic formulators, other companies can look at my information and formulate correctly for us. So I would really I'd appreciate it if you did go over. You don't have to follow me, but if you could at least respond to polls, it's a big service that we can give then back to the rest of our family. So let me go through some of these answers that you responded to. So the first question I asked was laser. If you used laser to treat your hyperpigmentation, did it work? 464 of you responded. 66% of you said no. The next question I asked was, did laser worsen the hyperpigmentation? 509 of you responded, and 57% of you said it worsened the hyperpigmentation. So knowing that information, that 57% of over 500 of you had worse pigmentation after using laser, would you consider laser being the best option for skin of color? When the side effect is worse than the original thing you're trying to treat, and there's such a high incidence of it, when you do a cost-benefit analysis, in my mind, it doesn't make sense. So the next question was on hydroquinone. So 736 of you responded. And the question was, did you see good results with hydroquinone treating your melasma? 65% of you said no. Then I said, did your melasma return when you stopped using hydroquinone? 566 of you responded, and your 78% of you said, yes, your melasma returned when you stopped using hydroquinone. 78%. That's a very high percentage. The next question, however, was fundamental. It was, if your melasma returned when you stopped using hydroquinone, was it worse than before? 492 of you responded, and the results were 57% of you said it was worse than before. So again, knowing that information, would you think that hydroquinone was the best treatment for pigmentation for skin of color? Personally, I don't think it is, but each to their own. And by the way, I'm not doing this or saying this because I'm asking you to come to my clinic to get my treatment for hyperpigmentation, because my treatment is not perfect either. We have a 5% failure rate. Imagine we do thousands of treatments every year. We have hundreds of failed treatments every single year. Difference is that we don't burn skin. And again, I'm not saying come and do our treatment because it's very impractical. It's in the UK and it's not a perfect treatment. So I think that's also very important to know. But what I'm saying is the question should always be, when you're formulating, number one, how do I get minimal irritation and inflammation? And number two, how do I get the results that I want in that order? I would rather that you did treatment and saw no results and had no burns than to do treatment, see results, see burns, and get more pigmentation. So this is why I think the way I think, and this is why I made this channel, is because I really want our priorities to be set when it comes to our skincare. So what do you do, Dr. V? We've just burnt our skin, we've done laser, we've done a TCA peel. What do we do? So first thing you have to do is to vasoconstrict. When inflammation takes place, your blood vessels vasodilate and inflammatory mediators flood the area and inflammation takes place. We want to stop that because that then triggers your melanocytes. What we want to do is we want to vasoconstrict. We want to make those capillaries skinny and stop them from releasing these inflammatory mediators into the tissue, because we do not want to trigger the melanocytes. So what I would say is you would put that area under cold water for 2 full minutes. You might also want to use a covered ice pack to keep it cool and to do everything you can to reduce inflammation. At this point, please do not apply any oils or any balms or any healing balm, because fats basically retain heat. So why would you put something on that retains heat when we're trying to cool the area? It's a mistake that I've seen being made, and it's the worst thing you can do for skin of color. The next thing I recommend you put on the skin is a cool aloe gel with no denatured alcohol, no fragrance, no essential oils, no irritants. The reason I want you to do this is twofold. I want you to continue to soothe and cool the area, but the second thing I want you to do is to lock in moisture. We need to create a healing environment for the skin, for your skin to repair itself rapidly. The longer it is dry, dehydrated, the worse the outcome is going to be. The aim is always to make sure we lock in moisture and create a healing environment for the skin. Your doctor may also give you a steroid cream to use temporarily, which I'd also recommend, because what that does is just rapidly reduces inflammation, breaks that vicious cycle, and so you can get to the healing phase faster. And so I highly recommend it for a short period of time when your doctor gives it to you. Some other anti-inflammatory ingredients include D-panthenol, bisabolol, green tea extract, cucumber, centellia. So there are lots of different anti-inflammatory ingredients you can also apply. So stick with your aloe gel for about 3 to 4 times a day for a few days. Then you can switch to a fattier moisturizer once you feel like all the inflammation has really died down. Then switch to a fattier moisturizer like your Cetraban, like your CeraVe. You do that for about 3 to 4 times a day again. Now, after about a week, maybe 2 weeks, you may start to see hyperpigmentation. Now, the reason why it takes that long for it to happen is because imagine your skin is like a conveyor belt of cells. Now, the inflammation has taken place at the basal layer, but you have to wait for those cells to come to the surface for you to see it. And that usually does take a couple of weeks for you to actually start seeing the darkening of the skin, which is hyperpigmentation. Now, at that point, you really want to start wearing tyrosinase inhibitors. You want to start slowing down that melanocyte that was producing the pigment melanin because you stimulated it. You need to just calm it down now. Otherwise, no matter what you do, it's going to continue to spit out more melanin in that localized area. So you want to slow it down. Now, classic tyrosinase inhibitors that I love include 2% alpha arbutin. You can buy that from lots of different places, including The Ordinary, Naturium, Inkiles. Lots of different people sell alpha arbutin. Octadecanoic acid is my other favorite one for skin of color. Vitamin C, different forms of vitamin C, including tetrahexyl decaloscorbate or sodium ascorbyl phosphate, licorice root extract, berberry extract, azuloglycina. So that's azelaic acid plus glycine. And so it's a more hydrating, less irritating version, which is much better for skin of color, especially if you've already had inflammation take place. And then again, love retinaldehyde, love niacinamide. Niacinamide is a melanosome transfer interrupter. So it prevents melanosomes from going from the keratinocyte to the surrounding skin cells. So that's another fantastic ingredient. If you like single actives, then you can buy alpha arbutin, niacinamide, azelaic acid, and vitamin A from The Ordinary, Boots, Naturium. However, if you want all the tyrosinase inhibitors in one kit, I am going to be launching the Body Pigmentation Kit for skin of color in March, and I will link down below for priority access. What I would recommend is start off with the cheap option. So start off with the single actives and see how far you get. If you're happy, using single actives and you get to the pigmentation level that you're happy with, then stop there. Don't buy anything else. If you feel like actually your pigmentation is more stubborn and you need a cocktail of tyrosinase inhibitors, only then I'd recommend my Body Pigmentation Kit. But ideally, I want you to start with the cheap thing, hopefully get the results that you want, and then you don't need to buy anything more. Right, so I'm in the comment section for 1 hour at the launch of every single video. Please do download your free guide. The link is down below. Please ask me any questions that you want to ask or any other videos you want me to make, because I do write down lists. And if you give thumbs up to each other's requests, then I will definitely know that's something that a lot of you want to see. Please do follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and thank you very much for watching.